really hope you enjoy this video. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more fantastic music content just like this.
Welcome to the Need to Know Music Show with me, Ronan McManus, here on Switchbox TV. Today I'm joined by Nashville singer-songwriter, producer, best known for his gaming-themed trio Nerd Out. They've built 3.2 million subscribers on YouTube. It's probably more since we've received that information. And he's releasing his next album entitled The New Roaring Twenties, described as an introspective look at what it's like to be raised by the internet. Please welcome Ben Schuller. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Am I
Appreciate
pronouncing the name right?
Schuller,
Schuller,
yeah.
Schuller. Okay,
You got
cool.
it, yeah.
Great. So how are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
We'll get into all the Nerd Out stuff and the new album. But first of all, how have you found the last year or so? It's been a very strange year for musicians, but I'm presuming with your links to kind of gaming and the online nature of that, maybe it didn't sort of interrupt your stride too much. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
how was it?
obviously it's been, a weird year for everyone in different ways. Like I feel the most for my friends who, make all of their money playing live music and they had to stop doing that for months. So like
That's
I
me.
luckily, yeah. Yeah. So like you said, like I'm lucky enough to do a lot of my stuff on the internet. So, YouTube doesn't shut down. So we were able to still do a lot of that. But I mean, not being able to leave your house for, so long when you're used to traveling. Like we had so many different trips and performances that got canceled. I had a tour that got scrapped, like right as you were about to announce it, the whole world shut down. So, we were able to definitely keep making music and pumping out content, but that burnout you get when you're not able to actually get out and perform or see people, it definitely takes a toll, just like anybody else. But I will say one silver lining is, I was making an album this year, so I had nothing better to do but sit in my house and write an album. So at least it was good for something.
Yeah, you've kind of over the last few years kind of naturally spread your time between your own music and gig touring live and recording and releasing, as well as doing the kind of gaming thing on the side. So as you said, you kind of had the album. You were planning to record an album anyway,
Right.
but did you find yourself kind of leaning more towards the gaming stuff? Maybe at the start of how did it play into your hands with that stuff, or
It,
did you really get straight into the album?
yeah, I mean, honestly, the album. Like, so I had planned like it since last January, February was kind of when I was deciding. Okay, 2020 is going to be when I, start doing this. So really, it lined up like exactly when the shutdown happened. Um, it was pretty much okay. Like this is the time, I guess. So I'm just going to sit down and like really focus on this. So yeah, it was mostly beneficial for the album. The Nerd Out stuff, that's like a well-oiled machine at this point. We're so used to just making a brand new song every week, and so that didn't change. That we kept doing that throughout the whole time. But yeah, it was really just having that extra time. Like we had a trip to England that we were going to perform at like an event over there with Nerd Out, and that got canceled. That was around Easter time. And then we were supposed to film a music video overseas, and that got shut down. So a lot of the Nerd Out stuff actually got put on hold. But the album was one thing that I was able to just do from my own house mostly.
That's strange. You'd think of the Nerd Out stuff being the stuff you'd be able to do more in
Sure.
lockdown, whereas actually you were doing more of your own stuff. So, what did you have songs? Was it what stage were you at? Was it literally starting from the start of the writing process, or yet did you already have some songs written? Where were you? Was it literally a blank page at the
It
start
was
of the
pretty
lockdown?
close to that. I think the first when I got the idea for the whole album was when I wrote the first song for it, called "Be Somebody Else," and that was like mid late February. So that like it was 3 weeks later we were full on lockdown. So it was pretty much like I had a couple ideas for songs. I had a couple songs like in the early works, and then everything got shut down. So that's when I got down to business.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's described. We've got some of the press release stuff that you sent through to me,
Mhm.
information on the new album, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a look at. I'm going to say your generation because I'm probably generation above, if not two
Sure.
generations above. But and this and the challenges that you face and in a very internet driven world, and the sort of struggles and trials and tribulations of that. And I suppose lockdown kind of amplified all of that stuff. So just when you were writing songs, did you have the idea of the album that you did, these are the things you wanted to tackle? Did you already
Mhm.
have that concept of the album, and then you were kind of writing songs to that, or did it kind of come together? Did the concept to become apparent later on?
Yeah, it definitely evolved. And like you said, being locked down, all of those things that the internet, all those things I'm talking about kind of are magnified because all we had was the internet. So I can give a
Yeah.
little like backstory, I guess, on how it came about. It's like, like we said, I've been doing the nerd out thing for forever. I've been doing my own solo music, but it's all come from the internet. Like I've, built up a following making acoustic covers on YouTube and Spotify, and nerd out obviously was mostly a YouTube creation. So like everything like that I had built for myself came from the internet for the most part, like 99%. And so once I was reaching this level of success that I thought like I'd be happy, I thought this was like, yeah, I got everything, I wanted. I just bought a house. I like had plenty of money. Like I was playing music for all these people, but I found myself so unhappy. Like I was at this rock bottom moment where I kind of just like was in a rut for maybe like half a year last year and like before all of this. And I really just kind of like thought about it. And like when the idea came, it was like thinking about how I was really basing my self-worth and my identity off the internet and off of like the opinions of strangers. Like I was, it's easy to say like I'm addicted to social media, but when your livelihood is dependent on social media, it goes a step further. So then like I could say like, oh, I'm just gonna take a break. I'm gonna get off Instagram. But it's like, oh, I can't because I have to make that next announcement post or I have to keep the fans engaged and all this. So I felt like I was just in this never-ending cycle with no end at sight. And I guess the thing that kind of gave me some therapy from it was being able to write these songs and kind of have an outlet to express how I felt. So then these songs about just how our generation and it's very personal to it, specifically me. A lot of it is just so focused on the validation from strangers and what people think about us online and how we're portraying ourselves and how broken it is from the real world and how we've like almost thrown aside real relationships and just started focusing on these fake artificial ones.
Well, you kind of see that even. I mean, there's a few things that's kind of stirred up in me reading about this and talking to you now. A few things that kind of spring to mind, and one is I think that it's not just artists, because obviously there is that kind of social media that you have to keep feeding that beast, or else it goes away, and that's the only connection to audience. In some ways, the modern world is you can sort of say, well, I can connect with audience without that middleman of a record label.
Mm-hmm.
But that buffer zone has us of the record label and a kind of a team of people is you can feel like you're giving away money to people that aren't, but there is a kind of a benefit to having that buffer zone, and there's other people to do that whilst you can, because you're also trying to be an artist at the same time as every component part of a record label. I mean, it's definitely something that is a real consequence of the way the music business has gone, and maybe this album you're talking about, this is the cloud on the silver lining of not needing the record labels anymore.
Right. No, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. Like that's probably more eloquent than I had thought about it before, but it really is like the last, 15, 20 years, the whole, the power of the music industry has shifted towards being this independent, do it yourself person. And that's great. And obviously, I'm a perfect example of how you can grow something like that. Like you said, without that, buffer of, there's things you don't think about, that the kind of, I just want to be an artist, but at the same time, I'm bogged down by all of these things that I have to do to be able to become an artist. And yeah, we missed that buffer zone, like you said, the cloud and the silver lining. I like that.
Well, I'm sort of that generation where when I started to try and write music and get music out there were still record deals, and that was still the only route you could go down. And I sort of lived through this slow crumbling of the music business to the point now where I'm not, at 44 years old, I'm not fully equipped with all the necessary tools. Like for you, it's second nature, kind of how to use all these things, and it's kind of it's a kind of a weird scenario to find yourself in a situation where you kind of, although you know how to do it all, do you think your art suffers?
I have conversations with my marketing people about this all the time, because yeah, it's like from their perspective, it's like you need to be doing all of the new thing, like TikTok, for example. Like I
Yeah.
just haven't really like latched onto it yet, but they're like, you need to be promoting blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I feel like with the song that I'm doing right now, it almost takes away a little bit. It's like we're trying to find ways to marry the two. But yeah, no, when you're thinking, and this is something that I, deal with, not even including TikTok, but just in general, when I'm making a project, I'm thinking about how I'm going to promote it and how I'm going to market it while I'm making it. And that's probably not how, to make the best art, but that's how it is now. And that's pretty much,
But it's kind of, I
yeah.
think it's good to have those instincts of, and it's important now to have those instincts of, okay, now I kind of know how I'm gonna. You're almost planning doing that promo planning whilst you're creating the art. It's kind of
Mhm.
a real odd. I never thought of that before, actually, Dave. You just said
Yeah.
that, but because I'm sort of used to the idea of creating the art and then give it to someone else to do all the stuff with. But
Mhm.
you've got to do everything together, and I actually created a TikTok account about a year ago. I'm thinking I've got to get grips with this thing because most of my kids are on it. I mean, I've got
Mhm.
like teenage and younger kids who are,
Okay.
especially my daughter who's 8. She's all about TikTok,
She's an
and
expert.
she is. I'm trying to ask her how to do it, and I just found it was just I didn't have the time that you need to put in.
Mhm.
I mean, she's linked to. I'm linked. She's linked to my phone, so I can see everything she posts. I see, so I can
Mhm.
keep an eye on it. And the amount of content she's putting out as an 8-year-old, she's not even promoting anything. is but so like no matter like that's and I was thinking I don't have that's a job in itself.
Yeah, it is, but they don't see it like that. I mean, that's, I was the same way. I guess I came up more when Instagram was hitting its stride, and it's
Yeah,
like, you are just making content, but it's not a job. It's just like, oh yeah, I want to post this. I want to put, like, when you're making Instagram stories, like, you might think the random part of your day that, like, oh, I'm here doing this, but like people want to see that, and that's how you grow things. But it's kind of, ties a little into the album. It's like, why are we like, I get it for an artist or someone who's trying to promote their music, but like for people who aren't, it's like everyone's performing anyways. Like everyone is constantly
well that
performing
was
their own life.
the other of the other thing I wanted to talk about was that there is a kind of a everybody's doing this with social media now. There is a kind of a everyone's got a character that they're playing online, and people talk about this this persona that you're projecting to the world, and then the real you, and what damage will that be doing mental health wise, and everything of keeping up this facade of look at everybody's life on there on Facebook or on Instagram, and it's everyone's having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
How nobody's depressed.
You just
Nobody's
described.
feeling down. Nobody's feeling inadequate. Nobody's feeling body issues, personal issues. Nobody's struggling with their sexuality or it's that's what you'd think by looking at these profiles, but all the nuances of personal experience are kind of washed away in this kind of facade. I mean, these are some of the things that you're tackling in this
No, yeah,
in your
I was gonna
album.
say, like, over the course of that 30-second spiel, you just described like the premise of 3 different songs on the album. Like it's
Right.
very much that process that I'm singing about and writing about. Is it's how, yeah, it's we're putting up this highlight reel facade of how everything is great, and then that in turn people watch that and think that they aren't doing enough, so then they need to keep it up. And then there's the other side, when you are the one that's keeping up that facade, it's like, I always need to be doing more. I always need to be doing the next biggest thing to make it seem like my life is cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just is a downward spiral.
It's kind of a fake kind of race to an unknown finish line that doesn't really exist.
Right,
What's
right.
where does the race lead? Everyone's competing with each other for this goal that isn't really there.
That's
I mean,
exactly it.
do you have thoughts of trying to use some of this, like working with some mental health charities or something? And I feel like this is something that could be really useful for people's well-being.
Sure. And like, well, like, yes, I feel like that would be something that's great. I feel like I'm still trying to work through this myself. Like
Well,
I definitely,
that's the reason why. That's
yeah,
the thing, isn't it? You'd be sort of saying
right.
not
Like,
you're not giving the answers. You're just
no,
posing the questions.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's like a lot of people have asked me, like, oh, so like this is you like kind of preaching about what not to do. It's like not at all, because this is
No,
me. This is like I'm stuck in this with no end in sight either. Like I'm definitely not saying I'm above it. Like I can't. I'm addicted just as much, and I can't get out. Like I don't know how to, especially being a musician. like I don't have, unless if anything, the marketing people and everyone around me, it's like, you need to be doing this more, you need to be doing more. And it's like, I know you're right. Like I know that you're right, but it's like, it's
So
a,
in
it's
order to have the conversation, to tackle the problem that you're presenting, you have to delve more into the thing that's causing the problem that you're talking
right.
about.
I
It's,
know.
I can see where this idea of burnout and feeling like
Mhm.
you're in a never-ending cycle is going. But I feel like in the last few years, I mean, I've suffered from depression, anxiety, and it's something I've been very open about
Mhm.
on Facebook to kind of an anti kind of everything we're talking about, of trying to be transparent and say, look, people can hit me up and I'll talk to anybody. I can't offer any answers, but I can give
Mhm.
you my experience and share, which is kind of what you're doing here. I feel like there's been a lot. We've come a long way as a society, global society, about talking openly about mental health issues and other issues that people are having, whether it be sexuality, whether it be whatever it might be that they're going through in their life. Having that conversation, being open, and I think this is possibly the next big conversation that has to be had. It is going on, but I feel like it needs to be. You feel like the noise of social media is drowning out the
Right.
conversation about the issues with it.
No,
What are your
I definitely agree with you. Yeah, that's definitely not what I'm setting out to do, but I can see how like I'm, a product of it. And if anything, like it does help further the conversation. And maybe I'm not the right one to like take it to the solutions, but I can at least, provide my experience, provide my perspective, and like just shine a light on, you know, how widespread, how someone who seemingly on paper has it all put together can still be dealing with the same internal demons as anybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, don't think necessarily solutions is the way where it needs to end up. I think just telling a story and highlighting the issues, and I think it's something that's it's very important, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing all about it because it must have been a little bit sort of painful, or at least a little bit uncomfortable to talk about these things. I mean, how did you find the writing process?
Yeah, so the first song that I wrote is the fifth song that came out because I was like scared to put it out because it was the really like just the personal about how you didn't feel like you were good enough. Like it was, yeah, I wrote it at a time where it was literally this rock bottom moment, and it was like why can't I be as cool as I like is my the people I'm seeing, like why, like what's wrong with me that I can't measure up. And it was a really emotional experience writing the song. Like I had to stop a ton of times, like got emotional while writing the song. And when I put it out, it's kind of, it was hard because I had portrayed this perfect highlight reel thing, like I got it all together, like I'm successful, like I'm doing all these cool things all the time. But this song was very much the opposite of that. And it's like I have plenty of times where I literally don't like myself and I wanted to be like someone else. And yeah, a lot of these songs were opening up in a way that I hadn't before. And I've been very, gracious that the response has been, very positive, and everyone has been, no one said like, oh wow, I can't believe that Ben Schuller thinks this, but like it's been the opposite. It's been, everyone's been really engaging. I think that's why, if anything, it just shows that opening up is the better answer. Like you do need to be sharing your perspectives.
Well, I think it's a skill that everyone's maybe learnt,
Mhm.
that the idea that that's speaking out and that being accepted and being allowed is very important. And so maybe this is the time where these conversations can be had and people can be heard.
Mhm.
And that's like very important, maybe. But what about the recording process? What is your do you do everything yourself, or what's the sort of what was the process of actually, because it's some really beautiful atmospheric kind of
Mhm.
should naturally use a lot of pads and a lot of kind of electronic elements to it, but it's not EDM, it's not upbeat.
Right.
It's kind of there's a lot of great soundscapes and things like that. What's your process of putting that together?
Yeah, so I work with one other guy, Matt Drew, is one of my best friends. He's a producer here in Nashville, and it's really like for the production side, it's just me and him. Like a lot of these songs, I'd go to his place and we just like kind of experiment with beats. Like we, just like you said, a lot of atmospheric sounds, a lot of pads. Like so there's some hip hop influences, some R&B
Yeah.
influences, obviously some EDM, and we just like come up with a lot of these sounds over the course of a couple days, and then I'd take them home and just hole up in my house and, you know, craft. You know, I'd have like concepts that I'd want to make songs about, and then I'd craft a song to these instrumentals. And it was a lot of just, yeah, back and forth between me and him. Really, like he was probably the only person I saw during the first month and a half of lockdown, was just going back and forth to his house and my house. And yeah, so like production process, I record all my own vocals at my place. I would take them to his, and he does like all the vocal mixing. And then like, you know, I'd take the track over here and do like my own little tweaks. And then it's just like a back and forth between me and him pretty much.
Excellent, because comes out the other side. There's a lot of different elements to it. You can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of thought going into the sounds you're using, and kind of how it's being presented. It's
For sure.
it's definitely working. I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you got started, and kind of your childhood and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, before we get into the nerd out stuff, you know,
Sure,
how you kind of fell into that, because it seems like doesn't seem like a natural progression into that. But where did it all sort of begin, and what was it? Was it musical house growing up, and what age did you discover music?
Yes, I mean, it was a musical household. My dad was very talented. He played the trumpet like all throughout his life. He's also like in musicals, and you know, my mom sang in the choir. So like, there was always singing and always, you know, instruments in my house. And I just kind of, yeah, I don't know when the exact moment, but like I kind of always wanted to be a singer, I guess. Like there's a picture of me that like I've used as an album cover actually before, where it's like me at 2 years old singing the Barney theme song at my uncle's wedding. And like, so I kind of just always, you know, wanted to be performing. A big a big influence was my mom got me a Backstreet Boys CD when I was a kid, and that was the first like, whoa, what is this? Like, I want to do this. So yeah, I just started writing songs. Like I made a little band with my friends in grade school, and like I just record. This is, I guess, you know, learned I love to record music and produce music, was just on my parents' computer with their terrible little microphone that's like, you know, not supposed to be for music. It's supposed to just be for talking. And I would record these songs on there, and that just blossomed. And eventually, you know, you find the internet, you find YouTube, and realize like how many people are building a career for themselves on there. So I started doing the acoustic covers thing, because you know that's.
What was the sort of age you would do? You started doing that. What sort of age were you?
I think my first cover video that I did. I mean, I made like cover songs probably in like seventh and eighth grade, so I was like 13 maybe, and then like the first video I was probably 16, and definitely didn't blow up overnight or anything. Like you know, but you just start making a ton of them. Like I made a lot.
But it's interesting to me that that resource was there for you from you're that generation that came through, that was a natural thing to be doing that age 13, thinking I can just make this myself and just do
Right.
this, and people can watch it. I can reach people doing this, rather than sort of just doing small gigs to your family or whatever else, but maybe still doing that. But
Right.
the idea that you can reach someone across the other side of the world at that young age must have been a lot of freedom to
Yeah.
that.
And I think like a big benefit for me is like no one ever told me I sucked. So like at the beginning, I think my parents got me like for Christmas one year, they got me like 2 hours of studio time at some local studio. And so like I remember like going there like super excited, and he recorded me, and I didn't like it very much. I was like, I can record it better myself, which wasn't true, but in my head I could. And that, you know, because I just like really liked recording myself, I
Well,
got
you
good
knew
at it
what
over
you
time.
wanted to hear. Maybe you knew what you wanted to
Yeah.
sound like, and that's all that really matters. I mean, you can spend all your life making it, you know, making music that other people will like, that someone else can put it how they think it should sound. But
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, you've got to stand by it.
Exactly. So like producing myself has always been, you know, very important to that. And yeah, so I just started making, I made probably 100 acoustic covers over the course of 4 years. And that grew my following to a point where I just, you know, I was able to quit my day job. Like I, you know, had, you know, Spotify and iTunes was bringing in enough revenue, and like YouTube had built up a following. And yeah, that's what led to the nerd out thing. Like, so one of my covers, I guess, got seen by this kid who wanted to make a parody about a video game. I think it was Call of Duty. And he was like, hey, I wrote this like, well, it was not good. It was like really cringy lyrics, and I'm thinking like, I don't want to do this, but like, I guess if you pay me like $50, then I'll record it. That's fine, whatever. And it was like a parody of a Megan Trainor song. I think it was like All About That Bass. It was like right after
Right.
that, and
Yeah.
so it was like it's something, but the lyrics were switched around to talk about Call of Duty. So it's like,
Right. Okay.
yeah, it's pretty cringy, and it blew up. Like it got like 300,000 views in like a weekend. And I was like, what is this? Like, why did this happen? Like, why did people like this? Because like I had never heard of anyone singing about this kind of stuff. And then so like this was just some random kid in the UK actually who asked me, and then I did a couple more for him, and that ended up leading to Jack from Nerd Out. Well, before Nerd Out was starting, but he was kind of like getting his stuff in order to start this channel that was going to be just all about gaming music and nerd culture. And he's like, hey man, like I've seen you've done a couple for this, these people, do you want to do one for me? And I'll pay you a percentage of how much it makes, blah blah blah. And that just like skyrocketed immediately. It was like the first video got 5 million hits. And so I was like, yep, I want to, come on this full time. Like, let's do it. I'm here. I'm
Did
for
you
it.
have was it one of his songs you were singing, or was it a collaboration?
Yeah, the first one was another parody. It was Hello by Adele, and it was
Right.
again about Call of Duty. Everything was about Call of Duty back then for some reason.
Yeah. Well, that
And
was the biggest thing.
that was the biggest thing. Yeah, so it's actually this really like Jack wrote all the lyrics. It's really interesting because it was right around the time that they were kind of falling off as like the biggest game everybody liked. And so
Right.
it was like a song pleading to the makers, like, please don't screw up this time. So like, the fan base rallied behind it. And yeah, so that was the first song we did. And then it just started turning into this weekly thing. And then from there, I think it was about 6-8 months later, we were like, okay, we need to stop doing parodies. We just need to like write our own music. So
That was going to be my next question. What was the first one you did that you were really proud of? Because
yeah,
it
yeah,
seems like you were kind of, it's kind of good,
right.
that it's going to get people's attention and everything. But at some point, you want to add some sort of artistic
Yeah. So yeah, at
merit
the
to it.
beginning, it was very much just like, almost making more viral videos than they were songs.
Yeah.
Not something that I'd be like, bumping in the car. But about, yeah, maybe 8 months later, the first original song I did is this game called Ark Survival Evolved. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like an indie game, but it's got a decent following. And like the fan base, I just kind of like made this pop rock electronic hybrid style, and wrote this original song for this game, and the fan base loved it. The game actually loved it too. They ended up putting it in the game. So it's been
Wow.
like, yeah, it's been the menu screen on their game since 5 years ago. And I think it has like 30 million views or something on YouTube now. So like the first
Fantastic.
original song I did was the biggest one now. And, I'm never
Just
gonna
that's it.
top it.
That's it. Just
Yeah, and
retire
I
after one.
quit.
It's quit.
It's quit.
Just quit at the top. But
Yeah.
was it kind of did you find that the sort of gamer fan base was in line with your kind of musical style anyway? Was it in line with what you were doing, or did you have to shift to a different tone?
Well, it was very experimental at the start because I didn't really know. Like, I didn't set out to make like a sound that I thought would be what they would want, but it just kind of like, I made the sound based on what I was good at, and that clicked with people, and that ended up becoming like the sound I would use for Nerd Out. So like, Nerd Out is me, and like this up. There's a rapper too, so like we kind of switch off. So he has his rapping style, and I have this like kind of, it's almost like Linkin Park mixed with like more of like pop, like Post Malone ish a little bit. There's like some, I don't know, but it has kind of that
Yeah.
grit behind it, and I think they really like that too because I grew up listening to pop punk and stuff. So like that was a huge
Okay.
part
Yeah.
of my influences. And yeah, so that just became the style, and that evolved. So we definitely had like our own sound that was growing with our fan base, and it was cool.
And how did you find that fed into your own music? Were you creating any of your own songs at this point?
Yeah,
Trying to think of where this fits in with the timeline of the growth of
right.
your own music.
Yeah, so it was like my own music was like starting to do well, and that obviously got the attention of being able to reach out to people and do Nerd Out. But yeah, it's interesting like seeing them grow side by side. There are definitely times where like Nerd Out would have a moment and blow up, or then like the Ben Schuller channel, like I would have like a cover that would blow up. Like I put out a couple original albums during that time. Like one song that I put out in like 2015 ended up, because of this gaming where I think someone, from the nerd out side of things, like also follows my music and put my song to like a different, like they put it to a video game, like video on YouTube, and like it blew up and got this cult following of like millions and millions of views. Like it had nothing to do with nerd out, but still now Ben Schuller in the gaming world too.
Yeah.
And so like, they almost have grown together, I guess, because there's a lot of crossover with those fans. But at the same time, it's definitely like, a lot of people find out about Ben Schuller and have no idea what Nerd Out is, and vice versa, obviously. So it is interesting to see like where
But the two
meet.
things have distinct different sounds to them.
They do. Well, there's some crossover. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely there's a couple songs that like I've definitely like started to bridge that gap, and I think that's like
Okay.
something I'm trying to do more going forward is make them more of a cohesive thing. Like bring the Nerd Out fans over to the party at the Ben Schuller side, and like vice versa. But yeah, at the start, it was definitely more of a gritty rock side on Nerd Out, and then the Ben Schuller stuff was more EDM pop.
Yeah, 'cause you sort of feel like that. Because I interviewed a kind of a punk band who were into the sort of skating scene, and
Mhm.
the sort of skating and that kind of culture has a
Mhm.
real sound, a musical sound. So does the gaming world have its own kind of music that goes with that culture?
I think
Yeah,
so, and
and that's what Nerd Out. That's kind of what
yeah,
you
I
guys
do
do.
think that like we helped craft that a little bit. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
people that do what we're doing now. We definitely weren't the first, but at the time we started doing it, there was maybe 3 or 4 channels that really like started doing this well, and now there's probably 100. And yeah, I mean a lot of it's on the rap side. Like that was Nem, who's the rapper in Nerd Out. He like influenced a lot of that. But like as far as like this kind of epic, like it's almost like in the trailer of like a movie, like a trailer of a big epic war movie or something like that kind of
yeah,
like pump up music almost, but it's like epic, like anthemic songs.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that has, not saying that we created that sound or anything, but we definitely like helped further bridge that gap between this new electronic rock and video games and movies and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it was kind of you kind of grew when it grew at the same time. So
Right, right.
naturally there was
We
a
were,
kind of
we
a
were part of it,
you
yeah.
sort of fed off each other, I suppose.
Mhm.
But and recording the covers albums is something I found really interesting because I've struggled with this over in recent times, thinking about um, what do people want to hear
Mhm.
as far as what do audiences want to listen to, and in this sort of Spotify generation, YouTube generation, people obviously connecting with songs they already know done in a different way or something, and it sort of almost led me to think, well, do we need to write our own songs anymore? Even I went that far down this
Yeah.
road. You say, couldn't you just make money just reworking other people's songs?
Mhm.
And I think there's certainly an argument for that. Was the cover song thing you're doing your own kind of versions of these songs, your own take on these songs? There's just as much artistic merit sometimes in doing that than writing your own songs. What's been your sort of thought process on what songs you choose and how you do them?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely could take it from the like, if you want to be a cover artist and like really put your own spin on things and like build your audience that way. For me, it was always about the original music was the focus, so the covers were like a promotion tool. That was like, if you covered the newest Justin Bieber song the day it comes out, your cover is going to be very visible in search results and all that. So it was very much, this feeds into kind of the burnout on the album when everything is about algorithms and everything is about numbers and clicks. And like that's a lot of what making covers was for me. And like I did, I was able to make my own style, like this kind of like piano, like slow, chill vibe. Everything was kind of like a sad, somber tone that people, liked. But a lot of it, yeah, a lot of it was all about the numbers. It was, I chose the songs I was going to cover based on which ones I thought were going to be the most successful. And sometimes it's not your favorite song. Like there's been plenty of major pop hits that have come out that I've been like, I don't really like that song, but I'm going to make a cover of it because people are going to click on it. So
Yeah,
it's,
just for
yeah,
sort of
it's
using
that.
it like a foot in the door
Mhm.
to kind of get yourself noticed. And there's plenty of people that have done that. I mean, there's plenty of people that have blown up because of a cover they did, and then kind of then had the audience and the ear to then give them what you've done yourself. And I think there's definitely an argument for that. And I think especially in this day and age, it's hard to kind of be heard above the millions of artists that are self-releasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have something that kind of grabs people is definitely something I think that's worth looking at. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's a way to get noticed. I mean, you see now it's shifting a little more towards like the short form, like TikTok, like less produced, more just like I'm gonna sing a 20-second clip of this song as opposed to like making a full produced cover. But I feel like covers are always gonna be there as a way for artists to grow their fan base because it's a way to, like you said, get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
I don't think most people, obviously there are some, but most people who set out to do acoustic covers are doing it because they want to be an original artist and they're trying to build a following there. And some people end up finding something with the covers that they're like, no, this is actually what I want to do, and that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a new single coming out January 29th.
Yeah, a couple
of days time. So we're recording this on the 27th.
27th. Yeah, I guess I don't know what day.
So it may, by the time this goes out, we're going to try and turn it around quickly for you, so it's out of the round of the time this.
We can assume it's already out by the time.
We assume it's already out. So your single came out on the 29th. So Blueberry Diamonds. Tell us about this song.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the big climax moment of the video, or of the album, I guess you could say. So each song has its own music video. They've all come out 1 month at a time. This is the 7th one, and it's kind of like, my character, like me, has been like building throughout the album as like starting to fall further and further into this social media, internet obsessed like lifestyle essentially. And like he's at the point at Blueberry Diamonds where everything is just materialistic and everything is about keeping up this facade lifestyle that he doesn't love himself, and he's not able to love this girl that he's with. And it's the first song on the album that has another person in there, because it kind of shows before it was all about how this is affecting me, but now you kind of see how it's affecting other people too. And the video is there's a lot of like symbolism and images that show how everything I'm doing is damaging me on the inside. Like there's this high 5-star restaurant and like big fancy hotel suite, but like I'm covered in cuts and bruises, and like there's like a bunch of just like knives and other imagery that kind of is showing that I love this lifestyle, but it's what's doing the most harm to me at the same time.
That sounds really, really good. Sounds just like it's.
Okay.
I mean, it's just like, so this the album is kind of a storyline. It's a linear storyline.
Yeah, and the songs are definitely set out as singles. Like you can listen to them without having to follow a storyline. But if you're watching the videos and if you watch them as they go on, you definitely like the messages and the themes are hitting you in the head. Like it's very much obvious how the story is going.
So when are you going to call Andrew Lloyd Webber? This is a stage show, surely.
Dude, I didn't even think about that, but who knows? Maybe
like Tommy, the rock opera, Who's rock opera.
Yeah.
Tommy. I mean, that's had a storyline in the seems like this could be.
Yeah, American Idiot. I think Green Day also did the same thing.
So that's it. There you go. I'll look forward to it.
And royalties.
I'll only take a small percentage. It's fine. I'm very, very kind. I'll have my people contact your people.
Perfect. Okay.
We'll get it all sorted.
Sounds good.
So, I mean, live. I mean, this is the 4-letter word. When do you have plans for anything tentative? I know everything is in the air. We don't know. There's no certainty, but there are some plans being made. Are there any sort of dates been penciled in?
No dates. We had that already, and we tried to reschedule a couple times, and it just keeps getting pushed back. So at this point, we're like, no dates.
I feel like this is where we've got to. Is like we've had dates, we've had rescheduled dates. Now we're like, I don't have the energy to put more reschedules.
No, I'm not
at that stage. I feel like there's a lot of people at that stage.
I'm not going to keep making booking agents kill themselves over trying to book shows they know are not going to happen. So
it's a bit like, okay, COVID, you tell me, and then we'll just stop.
Exactly.
When you're done, you let us know, then we'll book some dates.
That's kind of what it is. The album is going to be fully out, I think, at the end of April, and if that could somehow line up to like the world opening up again and we could tour this summer, but like I'm definitely not going to get my hopes up. So,
but that's the release date for the full album.
Yeah, the full album is going to be end of April.
You've got 29th of January, which is possibly already gone by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
For Blueberry Diamonds, and there's going to be, I'm assuming, some more single releases.
Yeah. So like chapter 8, 9, and 10 are going to be February, March, April, and once chapter 10 is out, they will all be out together. Definitely not the traditional album release of 20 years ago. It's much more progressive as it goes. But
I think that's the way that
yeah.
it's doing it in bites. There's no point in releasing a whole lot of songs if it's a streaming. In the streaming culture, it feels like a song at a time is the way to do it. Give each song its own, especially what you're doing, which is it's like doing like a Netflix series or something.
Yeah.
You're just releasing each episode
right
on a monthly basis, and I think that's I love the artistic kind of endeavor behind that. I love that idea that you've got this thing going on, and so we'll urge everyone to go and check that out. And everything so far is out there to listen to. So you've got
YouTube.
six chapters, 6 episodes, and then episode 7. I'm going to call them episodes now.
Episodes, singles, whatever you want to say.
And this is season 1, is it?
I do not think there will be a season 2. I will say, so like side note, like I'm directing all these videos, and like I've never done anything like this before, but yeah, I will not be doing a huge music video production a month after it takes up all your time. Like there's so much planning and just like arranging that goes into it. And I'm going to be happy when the 10 songs are out. But there's not going to be a next 10 the next year. It's not going to happen.
Could get very dark season 2.
Yeah. We're
kind of like Black Mirror sort of stuff. Like get really freaky.
I mean, some of these videos get pretty close to that.
As you're getting you're getting more losing your mind as it goes.
Oh, I see.
Insane genius kind of director going.
Yeah, no, that's a whole different side plot. Yeah, I'm just going to ask you for new ideas on my stuff.
Yeah, it's just fine. We can be collaboration. But so I'm gonna do I always do a dream gig question where it's the dream. It's a dream gig, so it's you're on first, and then there's someone after you, and there's a headline act, and it could be anybody from history, alive or dead, or it could be whatever you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about promoting it. It's just whatever you want. You click your fingers and they're there. So
it's like a tour. Or like a one-time show,
or like a one-time show. So we're going to choose the venue as well. That's an extra one I've added on. So
okay.
It's you're on first, someone after you, someone headlining. And where is it?
Okay, I think it's at Red Rocks first of all in Denver because I've been like my dream venue to play there someday. Let's see, anyone from history like it's almost like hard to just pin down.
I'm not here to ask the easy questions.
I guess so. Yeah, you're really I think I've had talked about this before. I really wanted to play with Frank Sinatra. I think that'd be really cool. I used to do there was a talent show competition where I would sing My Way by Frank Sinatra. That was always my go-to song. I'd dress up in a suit when I was a kid. So I feel like that would be awesome. I feel like Ryan Tedder is one of my biggest musical influences ever. So having him or One Republic or, just some capacity, seeing him he could just go up there and riff or just like improvise for an hour and that would be fine with me too. Let's see, one more. What could I think of here?
Who's headlining?
Yeah, who's headlining these two?
Yeah.
Let's go Aerosmith. Let's just knock the walls down.
Absolutely. That's a party. That's a party and a half.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty fun show to me.
And I've just been told that we will put this out on the 29th. So this is going out on the day. So the single's released today.
Sounds good.
So go listen to it.
Yeah.
We have the recommendation part of the show. So this is the chance for you to recommend someone that people need to know. This is the Need to Know music show. So we see what we did there. Very clever.
Yeah.
So you can recommend whoever you want for people to go and check out.
That one's tough. All right. There's this upcoming singer named Skyborn who I've collaborated with a few times. Good friend here in Nashville. He's about to put out his first EP, but he's got an amazing, his voice reminds me a lot of Coldplay, Chris Martin, but it's very much married with the new kind of EDM R&B feel too. So it's a very like modern take on that. But yeah, I feel like Skyborn, a year or two from now, he's going to be a name that a lot of people are going to want to see.
So we'll put the link to his stuff there and link to all
Yeah,
your
yeah.
stuff. So I know after all we've talked about, I'm going to ask, where's the best place for people to keep in touch with you? What's going on?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, you type my name into Google, you'll find anything you want. But Instagram's probably where I'm the most active. YouTube, obviously. Those are the two best places to follow my new stuff. And then Spotify for streaming. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's been so great chatting to you, and I appreciate your honesty and your openness, and it's so great to hear you talking so openly, and it's so brilliant that you're highlighting the issues. I mean, we're not asking for any solutions to these things, but you're highlighting these are the issues of your generation, that you stuff you're living with day to day and living through, and it's I think it's a very important thing to be talking about. So congratulations on all that you're doing, and I hope that the next few episodes of your of season one, I'm going to call it,
Yeah.
is, doesn't take too much of a toll on you, and you can
Mm.
keep it going. But listen, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, all of your perspective and insight was good stuff for me to think about as well. So I really appreciate that.
Fantastic. Listen, stay safe and well, and I wish you luck with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Cheers now.